Okay, hello everybody. This is Karen Barbie Atkinson, baby boomer belly dancer, and I believe we are in episode 2 here. And
Yes,
what I learned when I listened to a part of episode 1, Guyland, was that I really talk fast.
that's fine.
Okay.
I think that's why people are
Okay.
going to love you so much.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, then I'll just keep talking fast because it's probably going to keep happening. I won't eat up any brain space with trying to slow myself down. Good.
Okay.
Do you want me to keep talking? You had a lot to say a minute ago. No?
No, I mean, this is Guylan, and I'm helping Karen produce her belly boomer, be-
Baby boomer belly dancer.
her baby boomer belly dancing podcast.
Right.
And sooner or later, you probably will be hearing me next to nothing because Karen's going to be bringing in guests and everything else like that.
Yeah.
But we're kind of still in practice mode right now.
Right.
So we're getting it out there. We're not letting perfect get in the way of possible and taking the bull by its horns, carpe diem, whatever you want to say. It's all of them, damn it, all of them.
All of those things. Yeah.
And trying to come up with a really cool format. So did you get any feedback from your last show?
Just kind words, not
Sure,
real
yeah,
feedback.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, people were like, "Oh, you look so cute in that
Oh, and
costume." I
that's
was
fun.
like,
That reminds me of when I was dancing with you, Karen, and that was interesting. Things like that.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
it's good stuff. But
it's not like the real, "Oh, great to see you. It's been COVID. You've been dancing, and you look so great in that costume, even though you've gained 20 pounds." Not
Right.
you in particular, but
right.
yeah, still subtle politeness.
Yeah. Small talk.
Yeah, small talk. So,
Yeah.
so what are your feelings after the first podcast?
Oh, I think it's fun. I think it's somewhat cathartic. Is that the word I want?
Yeah, I think cathartic is good. Yeah, I think cathartic is good.
So, I think about when we do stuff on stage, and I tell people I need you to be technically strong. I need you to listen to the music. I want to see a musically relevant interpretation. I don't just want to see your therapy and your nervous breakdown up there. Hopefully, that's not what's happening here. We're just going to keep talking, and people are going to listen to my therapy and nervous breakdown. Hopefully, there'll be some nuggets of interesting stuff in there. Whenever anybody sticks with something for almost 50 years, you would think, right, that there's
No,
something to
of
it.
course,
Okay,
of
what's the
course.
longest you've stuck with anything, Guyland? When I was thinking about this podcast tonight and what I want to talk about, it came to my mind that, the things that I'm wanting to ponder here over the next few minutes, it's the kind of stuff that only comes up if you have stuck with something for a really, really, really long time in your life. Or I think if you did that thing early in your life, maybe let it go for a while and then came back to it. People who've had those experiences will relate to what I want to talk about tonight. So, do you have anything like that?
So, believe it or not, technology is that weird to say technology because it's not, but anything computer related is by far the longest since I was 7 years old.
Okay.
Right, I've had something in front of me that was technology related, whether it was a computer, whether I was building a computer, whether I was working on computers. It's
Okay.
always been something. Now, my longest relationship has been Sprint, my cell phone company, which is now T-Mobile. So there's a transition there.
Okay.
Bad joke.
Okay.
But yeah, so Sprint's now gone to T-Mobile, and so that's of course my family and stuff. But as far as like business wise, you and Tommy, I mean, you all are up there at 10, 11 years now. So
10, 11 years what?
of being together.
Tommy? Me and Tommy?
Yeah.
We've been married
No,
26
me. No, I'm
years.
saying me.
Oh,
being
it's like,
younger.
are you talking about me and Tommy? 10 or 11 years? No. Okay.
Right,
Yes,
right.
right. You've been around us a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I do believe that is, part of one of them, but no, not really.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking earlier about, because, I've been doing this for almost 50 years now, in belly dancing for almost 50 years. And the first thing I always think about are high school reunions. And when you run across people at your high school reunion, so I graduated from high school in 1979. I can go to a high school reunion and there are still women who wear their hair in feathers. That was how you wore your hair.
Sure. Yeah.
In the 70s and early 80s, I guess. And it's like, that's interesting that maybe you struggled to find a good hairstyle and you felt like feathers were working for you, so you're afraid to let go of it, maybe. I don't know. Or just averse to change like so many of us are. But and maybe they just don't give a shit. Maybe kudos to those people. But it's interesting. Also at high school reunions, you tend to run into the football star who is really pretty shy, like they don't talk a lot, but man, if you just say, "Hey, remember that game?" whatever, when we played straight Jesuit in 1978, and he can go, yeah, and remember when it was 3rd and 8, and Paris went out for I mean, like, they remember in
Sure,
detail,
sure, sure.
like, it was the highest point of their life or whatever, and it's like, gosh, have you done anything great since? Like, it's just consumes so
Well,
much of their brain.
I think maybe it's a way that they've compartmentalized that part of their life, and they may not. They're not they women and men, feathers in their hair, whatever, not vulnerable enough to open up and say, you know what, high school was good, but it really sucked for me,
Mhm.
right? And or they're having problems, or it's midlife crisis, or whatever else, right? It's. I don't think it's an authentic piece.
Maybe not. Maybe
And
that
I
that
think
whole
that's what
sense
it
of the
is. I
good
think
old
it's
days or
yeah, it's good.
whatever, I don't
It's
know.
yeah, exactly. Nobody wants to talk about their wife who they haven't slept with in 3 months, and that they're hitting on their secretary, and they can't
Your
stand
reunions
their
sound like a lot more
kids.
fun.
I know I've learned to be vulnerable. I mean, this is a lot more fun at mine, right?
Well, my point is, okay, let's just pull this back to some baby boomer belly dancing stuff. My point is, and the reason I started thinking about this is because I have so many students that come up to me at one point or another and say, gosh, Karen, you're so lucky. You're so lucky that you got in this when you were a kid, and you've stayed with it, and they feel like that gives me all kinds of advantages. And in many, many ways, of course it does. But there is another side to it. And I often think about that other side. And this all started because I was saying to you, Gylan, ignore my face, because there are parts of it that are still swollen from getting my micro needling done yesterday. One of the many, many things that I do to keep Humpty Dumpty together these days. Many, many things.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. But, you know, I think that as I was growing up as a dancer, I developed a certain style. And as I started getting more and more out in public and restaurants and parties and all that, that style was getting the response that I wanted. And then it's really hard to change that style. And and if you know me, it's a very high energy, react to everything you hear kind of style, kind of Energizer Bunny like. And over time, I've come to appreciate that style really less. It's too much to take in. And I've also felt like there's an attacking of the music that goes on when that kind of frenetic behavior happens for too long. But and I talk to my project band dancers that have been restaurant dancers a lot about this sort of thing. When the crowd responds, and oftentimes responds in money and applause and all that, the subconscious reinforcement of all of that is pretty strong, and it's really, really hard to break. When we work with the live music program at my studio, we work to move forward in movement, in musicality, and all that. We also try to notice what our habits are, and work to break those habits. I hate to say work to break those habits, because that doesn't work. Okay,
Okay, okay. So we're talking. You just mentioned work to break habits, right?
Mm.
What's one of your habits? What's something a habit that you've developed over the years that you've had to work to
In
break?
dancing?
Sure.
Oh, there's so many.
I mean, what's a major one that could you point one out?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want me, if I do it, my headset's going to fall off, though.
No,
You just
no,
want me to
not
tell you
dance.
what
I
it
don't want you to
is?
go up there and tell people what
To
it
throw
is.
my head back
Okay.
on at the end of a phrase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and
Head
8.
back.
1, 2. Yes, yes.
Okay.
To always use that as an additional piece of an accent.
Right.
Like whatever else on my body is accenting, that's going to go, but that's going to go back
Throw
on
your hair
each.
back.
Yes,
Throw your hair
yes.
back. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So that's one in dancing. What about in life? Give me one in life.
Habits in
Yeah,
life.
one habit in life that.
Well, I don't watch videos of my life, so I don't know what those are. I watch videos of my dancing, so I see what my habits are.
So you don't know of a habit that you have in life that.
A bad habit in life?
Not a bad habit, but something you don't have any. Okay, let's do this. So everybody listening to the podcast, right? And we're gonna post it on different places, so it'll be posted in on Facebook and Facebook and YouTube and a couple other places. But go ahead and either text Karen or put on something that a habit, not a bad habit, but a habit that you've seen that she has. Because it's a way that she can learn more about herself, and we could talk about this on Baby Boomer Belly Dancer next
I
time.
laugh too much. I noticed that.
Is that a nervous tick? instead of cussing
Probably,
somebody out.
probably. I mean,
Yeah.
a habit's a tick,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
True.
thanks for
True.
that word, but yeah. And when I hear the video replays of me in class, I fill in a lot with just ridiculous laughter.
Right. Right.
You know, I say a lot.
Okay. So project band, dancing, belly dance, doing things a long time. How do you break those habits? How do you get out of those? Where
Well, you
is
have
it?
to become aware of them first.
Okay.
You have to become aware of them, and that's one of the things that we do. But it's a this first of all, this is a tangent. Okay, it's totally not what I was talking about, but we'll stay here for a little while. Because the more you focus on something, the more it just eats your brain cells and it's hard to let go
Mm.
of. I catch myself all the time emulating the dancers in Project Band, good and bad behavior, because I focus on details that they're doing so much. I start doing it myself.
Right. You become what you focus on.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And so the more you dwell on a habit, it that's not the way to deal with it is to replace it. Try to figure out what the trigger is and deliberately replace it. That's what I think would work best. That's what I've tried to do for myself, and with minimal success, because and back to the whole topic here. I've got a lot of momentum with those habits, a lot, and that whole frenetic dancing kind of thing. So much positive feedback on that style of mine for so many, and I'm just going to use the word decades, that and God bless Project Band and putting myself out there, all of the girls putting themselves out there in the public eye to work on these kind of things, because I can stand in front of a mirror and not do my habit all damn day long, right? But put me out there where there are people and I feel like I need to put my best foot forward subconsciously. I feel like that best foot is going to be that Energizer Bunny thing. And here's the other thing that happens when you've been doing this for 50 years. You get to this place where you realize that maybe that is not the best presentation. But if you're me, if you're living in my head, you don't want to deliberately slow down too much, because you don't want people to think that you did it because you had to, that you just don't have the energy to do that anymore. Oh, poor Karen. Look at Karen. She's just waving her arms around. Remember when she used to be able to, like this kind of crap eats my brain. And I think about this a lot too when I'm dancing with the band in Houston. And I've had this conversation with some of the Project Band dancers, just brutally honest, saying, we talk a lot about trying to find the slow line in the music and trying to spike the energy, drop the energy, keep it interesting, find different ways to interpret things. I have such a hard time doing that with the Houston band because I've been working with them for 30 years. And I jumped into working with them when I was at the height of my Energizer Bunny positive reinforcement place. And it kills me to think that they're looking at me going, oh, haram, ya Karen, you just don't have it anymore, And so even though I know, I intellectually, I know that it's a stronger, more artistic presentation to lose all of that movement ever so often and to draw that slow, deliberate line. I'm getting better about it. I really am. I really am. But it has been a huge, huge challenge for me, especially with those musicians.
But it takes time.
Tons of time. And that's my point. The more momentum you have, the longer you've been ingraining that behavior, the tougher it is to change. I look at some of the newer dancers in Project Band. We watch a few videos of them early in the school year. We identify some stuff we want to tweak. And they're tweaking it by the 4th month of the school year. And I'm like, bitch, I'm still working on something that I saw in
Sure.
myself 5 years ago.
Right.
And I can't pull it out of me in public yet, because I go into that performer space in my head. And I shouldn't even say that. Entertainer, please love me space in my head. And all that other stuff comes out, So that's the kind of thing that happens, I think, when you've been a child. And so you had this cute kid style, and then you're a young adult and you've got a ton of energy and you've got this ton of energy style. But that doesn't read really well on a 58-year-old to just be out there killing yourself. First of all, I'm dripping in sweat after 5 minutes.
Well, okay, so it doesn't look good on a 58-year-old. Is that personal judgment more than really anything else?
Well, I mean, that's at what point? Sure. That's
Yeah.
my personal judgment.
Yeah, it's your personal judgment, right?
At the end of the day, when people make fun of me for cutting carbs the month before the show, Oh, you look fine. They say, well, it doesn't matter what you think. Okay. What matters is what I think when I look in that mirror for the last time before I step on that stage. That's all. And whatever I've got to do to feel good about that moment, that's what I'm going to do, you know? So
Right,
yeah, it's
right.
personal judgment, you know? I feel like it's not age appropriate, just like I wouldn't wear, you know, short shorts to a nightclub.
Sure, sure,
I
sure.
don't think it looks, I don't think it looks good for somebody who's knocking on 60 to be out there just ass busting dance. I also personally feel like I should be emulating a deeper understanding of the music than that, you know?
Right, and you're not just out there ass busting with a great, with a great phrase. You're not just out there ass busting. Like you said, you have a deeper understanding of the music by this point,
Right. That will not come across if I'm reacting to every single
or
sound
trying
I
to.
hear.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Or
Yeah.
not reacting to every single sound that you hear. There has to be a happy medium or happy medium.
You need to take Project Band stuff, Kylan. You would understand. Yeah.
No, I get it. I get it. I grew up
Yeah.
that and but as you do get older, there are certain things that you cannot do the same. So we mentioned older now. Whenever I hear the word older, I'm three times. I realize I'm only 10 years behind you.
Hmm.
Um, but that brings into the longevity of doing this. Well, one of the things I thought about today, because I literally did not do anything today. When I say I didn't do anything, I didn't do anything that required any brain power or me not being able to do it on my phone. I just didn't do it, right? Because I got that video done that I needed to have done for the NAO. So I had that done. So I was like, okay, I didn't have anything hanging over my head. But I bring that up is because it's the longevity. It's going to be times when you didn't feel like getting out of bed, when you don't feel like doing that. How is 40 plus years? How do you do that?
Stay interested.
Hmm.
Depth. We had a little bit of this conversation in
Okay.
the previous
Okay.
podcast. Depth. For me, it's depth. I guess some people could just keep picking up the next prop and stay interested. I think you'd run out of, you know,
Props,
yeah,
swords,
boxes.
fan veils.
Looking around the room, cameras, curtains.
No, cameras and stuff always get new. Cameras and microphones, they're always new, and
But,
computers.
you
Yeah.
know, if you start, I mean, you just have to find your interest, right? And keep digging. I'm trying to be kind. Honestly, I feel like
No, just be
going
real.
deep is the only way to stay interested and to feel like you're growing. You know, if you're the kind of person who wants to really feel like you're adding some value to your experience, I think that's the thing to do. Just picking up the next prop, the next prop. I can't imagine that would work for many people. It doesn't. When I think about my contemporaries and the ones who have really stayed in it, they've gotten into the culture, they've gotten into the music, they've gotten into the language, you know, all of that kind of thing. Yeah.
And so your baby of Project Band, that's essentially what you're doing is you're allowing people to go deeper and get more into the culture, more into the learning, more into the understanding of the movements of the dance, which then will allow for them to have longevity, but not just longevity in dancing, but longevity in particular aspects of life also.
I agree. I do believe that.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
I really do believe
Is
that.
there one person or one situation that you can look at and say, "Hey, I know this person is different in life now than she was before because of working with me, working with Project Band, the cognitive difference"?
Not necessarily. You know, I
Okay,
think that if I asked any of them, they would all say that some things have changed around. You know, they all bring up examples when they're in their private lessons about some other area of life that has nothing to do with dance, where
sure.
they related a project band game or concept
Hmm.
to it, you know,
Hmm.
because it's all just improv and you know, we're all making it up as we go along. Hell, I looked at my calendar this morning and about 70% of that went as planned. The other 30%
Yeah, yeah.
improv, you know.
So, speaking of improv, what you mentioned a game. So you play games in your
Oh
classes,
my
right?
God,
Yeah.
yes.
So what's one of the games that you play in the class?
Well, like today when I posted that little, what did I call it? Improvised torso syllabification, listening to a piece of music and moving only on the syllables of the words. We play a game in class where you have to do that as you're talking. Like, as I'm talking to you, Guylan, I'm moving on every syllable that I'm saying. And then when you respond, you have to do the same thing.
Okay.
And so this connects your movement to these little distinct chunks of sound. And I encourage the dancers to hum the melody to themselves or to sing along. And even if you don't know the Arabic words, just, whatever you think you're hearing in your head, and to move with that, and ultimately, I think that what it does when you apply it to the music is it makes you a really keen listener. You really start zooming in on the tiniest particles of sound that are there. And listening in detail is really important for certain parts of this improvisation stuff. So that's one of the games. What else? We play, well, back before COVID, we used to play little linking games, like person A would do a combination that I did and then add on something of her own at the end. And then the next person would start with whatever that person had added on and add on something at the end, so that everybody ends up imitating each other for a little while and not just me, that kind of stuff. What else? I write little things on pieces of paper when we do drum solos, like just use your upper body or just use your arms or make sure you keep traveling. And we take turns doing the drum solo and you have to honor what's on that little piece
So
of
you're
paper.
breaking the monotony of the classes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And forcing them to do things that they're uncomfortable doing in front of their peers,
Gotcha.
Because if you can do that, then you're going to get out in public with the band playing behind you. And I mean, every single dancer will tell you it's harder to dance in front of an audience of dancers than in front of the public. Public don't know, you got on a pretty costume.
Yeah, I've
You cut carbs the last week.
Right.
They're on your side.
Yeah, and I've heard people cheer sometimes, and I can't critique enough a lot because I'm not a dancer, but I have seen hundreds of hours of dancing now, and so there's certain things that I know when the crowd cheers, and I'm like, you all are really cheering for that, and I'm like,
Well, I have to tell
okay.
you, on Sunday when we danced over at Hogshed Deco Pizza,
Hmm.
and that was one of our project band things to rock and roll music. So much fun. So much to learn from that. Big time. Anyway, I went to the restroom afterwards and this woman came up to me and she said, "Do any of you guys ever dance at parties?" And I said, "Well, a lot of the girls that are here are professional dancers." I said, I don't do any of that. I'm the teacher." And she said, "Oh, I knew you were the teacher. You were the best one." And I actually did not take that as a compliment because I always
Those who
feel
cannot
like,
do
oh
teach.
God, no. I was thinking, crap, I'm doing that Energizer Bunny shit again. And it read as she did the most. She did
Right.
the most moving around and 26 things at one time.
Or maybe, damn it, Karen, you were the best.
No, that doesn't matter. Okay. All I'm saying is
That's also humble, but
that
okay.
the vox populi is not always the voice of God. Sam Houston said that.
Tommy would love you right now.
Yeah.
Tommy would love
Yeah.
you right now.
Yeah. The masses, if that's what you're going to do, then okay, yes, pick up 26 fan veils, put a sword on your head, and wear pasties. You
So-
got them. Truly.
So are we saying that the best doesn't matter? Who we perceive as the best, or there's a guy I listen to online all the time. His name is Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. I've mentioned you to him. He talks about how to market and how to get these things out here for social media and everything else. And he says, never get high on your own supply. And what he's talking about is don't get high on the compliments.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get high on the praise. Because when you get high on the compliments, when you get high on the praise, at some point you're going to have this downfall, and it's going to come crashing and burning because you're not staying in the middle. You're riding your own supply. So if you have a really bad day and somebody tells you did good, you're gonna, what do you mean I did? I didn't. Don't get high on your own supply.
Sure. I think that at some level, anybody over, I don't know, I'm going to say 35, knows that. Now, living it,
Very true.
That's
Very,
tricky.
very true.
That's
Yeah.
real tricky. And when you put yourself out there in public and, the girl before you got a bunch of applause, you're
You want
probably
the same
paying
applause,
attention.
yeah.
You're probably paying attention.
Yeah.
But you're raising a good point, and this is something that I want to address, talking about this having done something for 50 years thing. There have been 4 or 5 people, 3 project banders, and then 2 other dancers that have come into contact with me in the last 2 years. And they knew me, the 2 other dancers knew me 20, 30 years ago, okay? And the 3 in project band had been at my studio maybe 15 years ago, taking classes. And it was an interesting, I'm going to talk about the project banders, the 3 project banders. Whenever somebody signs up for Project Band, we have a preliminary meeting where I just talk to them one-on-one, pre-COVID, face-to-face, and see why they're doing it, what they want out of it, make sure that it's all going to meet their needs, right? And so it's a pretty heart-to-heart conversation. And those 3, on their own, 3 separate meetings, basically said that the live music program looked so fun and compelling that they were willing to give basically me and my studio another try, even though they had felt so uncomfortable and judged when they'd been at my studio in the past. And
Was that judged by you or just judged in
me,
general?
me,
Really?
oh yeah.
Wow.
I'm a very competitive. Not so much anymore. This is something I've worked on. So this is to your point about the,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, I understand that. No, it doesn't matter if you're the best. Or I got that. And more now than ever. And it's taken, about 58 fucking years to get it. But
I think it doesn't matter if you're the best depending on what you're doing, right? As a dancer who's teaching others dancers, you're not standing in front of them to be the best. You're standing in front of them to help them grow and to be the best teacher you
well,
can
yes,
be.
sure, that's what you would
Right.
hope. But when you're 28 years old and you own a dance studio, when you're 30 years old and
Sure,
you own a dance
sure,
studio,
sure.
and you're pretty insecure yourself
Hmm.
and really vain and stuff, you have I had a tendency to label people. These are my A team, these are my other ones, and people could feel that, and that's not nice. That's not good. You could dance next to me, you couldn't, kind of
So
thing.
people have come back to you and said,
People have come
"Hey, you're
back, and
not as judgy. You don't feel it. This doesn't feel judgy."
right.
Okay.
And honestly, I have to say, and I don't know if it's just because it all comes across social media or whatever now, but I don't get that out of the young dancers these days. Like, I almost kind of wonder if back when I was a young dancer, there were just so few, or I perceived there were so few because there was no social media. I thought there were so few young, good dancers that I almost didn't want anybody encroaching on my little domain here, like that kind of.
And you're saying you don't feel you're like that way
Well,
anymore?
I'm not.
I mean, I'm
No,
sorry, you
God,
don't
no,
feel like
I've
the
worked
younger
on it,
crew.
but
You
I
don't.
don't feel like the younger crew is like that. And I think that maybe it's because they can see that there's just I don't know, or maybe they're just putting their nice shit out on social media and they're really snarking in the background. I don't think so
No,
though.
I
I mean,
think
I
there's
really
a.
feel like they're a
I I
kinder group.
I think you have 80% of the people that take up, and will beat down the 20% of the ignorant people that are out there. That's going to talk about what somebody looks like, and I don't think bullies. Um, bullies is not
No,
necessarily a
bullies
word, but
work. Bully works. I feel like I was bully-y, that there was an era there
that's
where I was
what.
pretty
But
tough.
I'm saying that the era is different now because they're just, hey, I'm going to go out there. If I'm big and I'm 250 pounds, I'm a belly dancer. I'm going to put on my costume. I'm going to dance, and somebody's going to celebrate me. And I'm going to look for the comments that celebrate what I'm doing, rather than look for the comments to where somebody's going to put me down. I think that's what you're seeing as a difference now is people have a better sense of not everybody is 5'7", blonde hair, blue eyed belly dancer. There are midgets, literally, or little people. I'm about to get in trouble that are belly dancers and that are out there making some sort of living belly
Yeah,
dancing.
right.
And so they're like, if they can do it, I can do it. So it's an access
So
piece.
it's just so wide open
Right.
that there's not that much judgment on, and that may well be. I don't know, but here's what I do know is that first of all, I'm so thankful that Project Band was the thing that got these other women to come back and give me another chance because everything's cool now. Because why? Because when you get out there with especially live Arabic music, you can't make 100. Okay, you can't. So nobody's going to go out there and step off and be like, all right, try to do what I just did. No, we're all so vulnerable when we're in this. We are all so vulnerable when we're in this, and it's really good for us, to be together and to have to work that way. And everybody's cheering for everybody else. It's really great. So I'm super thankful that they've given me this other chance to see the grown up Karen. Thank God she came out too. Sometimes they don't.
You're also seeing the grown up them.
Right.
And I think it's interesting because we often will say, well, I felt a little like your belly dance studio was a little judgy. Well, nobody's going to say, well, I don't necessarily think I was mature enough to dance with my clothes off. I don't think I was mature enough to dance around other women that may have been more fit. I don't think I was ready for the gaze of guys as I'm dancing. So that judgment that they felt, and they're speaking specifically to you,
Mhm.
but I think there's a huge difference around that from not necessarily you, but a maturity that maybe you didn't have at the time, and also they didn't have at the time.
And you're right, but I
But it's not your
do
fault. It is your responsibility.
it is. I
Yes.
need to again, I talked a little in the last podcast about running that parallel track of, nightclub performer, studio owner. That's a tricky trick. Okay. And I mean, it just wasn't always well managed, and that was the result of it, that kind of behavior towards other dancers. So maybe they bear some of the burden of that whole unfortunate experience. But as a studio owner, I don't care if what I'm doing else or what my age is. I should make people comfortable when they come in. And it was not surprising to hear
Sure.
them say that
Sure.
I wasn't, because I know what kind of headspace I was living in at the time,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I attracted people like that to me too. So there was quite a little cadre of us that
Yeah,
were
no,
very
you
judgmental.
and you were I mean, for us being friends and me knowing your husband, you were a hottie. Like the old pictures, they don't lie. The old video doesn't lie. You were that kind of fun loving, good looking, all American performer who happened to belly dance. And I think that goes to our head a lot of times.
Well, I guess, but
I mean, but you were. I mean, and you even look at yourself and you were like, "Oh wow,
no,
yeah,
no,
yeah."
no, yeah, absolutely, and
Of course, I think
that's
your
true.
arms are better
That's
now, though. Your arms, I think,
they aren't right now.
you know,
Not
they're
not
right
this
now.
very minute. Not this very minute. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. That's all. The end. Move on.
What's interesting about that though? About the time in your life or about where you were? What's interesting about that?
What's interesting is how long it took me to let go of that. And I'm gonna without Project Band, I don't know to what extent I would have let go of that. I think about we have a drug addict in my family. I think every family has one.
Every family has one.
And she started using drugs when she was 12 years old. And every psychologist, psychiatrist, therapist, everybody has always said, man, when you are not fully developed and you start introducing these chemicals into your body, everything about her development formed around the existence of this substance. So this is going to be a tough one to break, you know? And so I feel like because I was so insecure and shaky about what I was doing this for and all in the dancing when I was super young, that everything I built around it was affected by that kind of mentality. And so to not step away and then come back and change it, to have to change it while you're in it, that's hard, man. And I mean, it wasn't even intentional. I just, I got older and, shit happens and all that. But I'm going to say a big part of it has been that vulnerability that we all feel, myself included, when we get out there and dance to this live music, improving over and over and over and over and watch those videos of ourselves. It knocks you to your knees a little bit. And not in a bad way, okay? Not in a bad way. It's an equalizer. It's an equalizer, and that was just really, really helpful to me. I don't know. I would like to think that I'd have figured this out, but I swear I know people my age that are still snarks.
Oh,
I know
of
people older than
course.
me that are snarks.
Of course.
I'm related to people older than me that are still snarks.
No,
Like, you would think the closer you get to the grave, the more you might lighten up. But I think maybe without some of these other things in place, yeah, I don't know.
did was Project Band one of those things that you did because you wanted to grow, or was it a
Project Band is
necessity?
is a divine thing. Project Band just happened,
It
and the
did.
damn
It
name
did.
just happened.
I know.
Like I want a T-shirt so bad, or tank top so bad. Project Band, and the tagline. You know how we were talking about it. Except I don't know what the hell to say because Project Band doesn't. mean anything to anybody but us.
No, I know, I know. I mean, you tell somebody Project Band, they'll be like,
What?
"Band camp?
You in a
What?"
band? Yeah. Play
Maybe
trumpet?
awesomely organic.
What?
Project Band.
No.
Awesome.
We are not going to cut up this tagline thing while we're
Oh,
here.
wait,
We've been on this for an
okay,
hour.
okay. Well, listen, if you're listening to the podcast, send Karen a text, drop her email. What do you think
Yeah.
it should go
Oh
along with
God.
Project Band? That should be fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we had started talking before the podcast. We said I was like, Island, shut up, don't say anything yet. You had mentioned something about
Can I
it's
take a
not
drink?
about winning. Yeah. Go ahead. You had mentioned something that it was not about winning, right? And my exact phrase was, I think you won with Project Band. And the reason why I say that is because just for people that don't know and might be tuning in the middle of the show, before I make my statement, explain exactly what Project Band is.
Project Band is using live music as inspiration, motivation, the carrot. It's the carrot
It's the carrot.
to advance you in
Okay.
whatever way you want to advance in your dancing.
Okay.
Movement, vocabulary, musicality, understanding of the culture, whatever. But using live music and the opportunity to perform to that live music
Got you.
to do it.
Got you. In a world where everything is recorded and repeatable now.
Mhm.
Okay. So we were talking, and I can't remember, but I think you won. If you had to say like belly dance teachers, what's cool, this is cool.
This is cool. And I did win. But others are
Did-
winning too in their respective things.
Of course.
Yeah. And that was when I was sitting in that room and before the podcast and we had that conversation. That's all I was trying to suggest is that I'm in a different place thinking now, like a grown up.
Yes.
No, but and it's the kind of stuff that you could always say, but I really, really do believe that. And I make fun of props all the time. I do. I make fun of props all the time. But there are some people that do really beautiful things with them.
Sure.
There are,
Sure.
and they're winning in
Sure.
that, right?
Sure.
And I make. What else do I make fun of all the time?
Props.
Not just props, really. Yeah, that's
Props.
pretty much it.
Oh, and hair flipping.
Hair's a prop. Most of those girls that are flipping their hair, that ain't their hair. Just kidding. Yeah. But that's all. That's all I was trying to suggest. Project Band is a huge win in that realm.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
It's just a win. What I see with Project Band is a pushing of the envelope of really all dance, right? My music I grew up to, rap and hip hop, is heavily synthesized. Not a lot of live music pieces to it unless you're on the road and you're established and now you have this band playing behind you. I can name a couple of groups out there that have real bands that back them up. Black Eyed Peas being one of them back in the day, right? But what I grew up to was a lot of recorded music. So when I say winning, it's just like you're bringing back not the past or something that's old, but almost like a lost art of dancing to live music.
Yeah.
Tina Turner danced to live music. Now,
Bet she was choreographed, I bet.
oh, of course.
Yeah, so
heavily
this
choreographed.
is even differenter than that then, dude. Okay? This is differenter than that.
Okay.
This is really, and this is something I've wanted to talk about. Here, let's start. See how this goes. This is because one of my Project Band students said to me the other day, she said, I love watching these little improv videos you're putting out, Karen, because you use so many movements that aren't belly dancing. And I just didn't know how I felt about that.
What is a belly dance movement?
Right. What's a belly dance move? If
Sure.
I kick my leg, is that a belly dance move?
Right.
You know? What? Yeah. So, and that all gets really, 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 really nebulous. You know, it really does. Yeah. And so hold on. I just had like 4 thoughts at once. Wait a minute. I'm going to sort this out. Talk, Kylan.
That's called a brain fart, ladies and gentlemen. What I'm thinking as I'm listening to what Karen is saying is that when I remember when I first started with her, it was the art and science of belly dance. So now it's kind of like the art, the science, the philosophy of belly dance. Also, I think there's some very deep philosophical things that are starting to go on
Mm-hmm.
when we're pondering and pontificating about belly dancing
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that you're starting to think about. It's not just I won. It's not just look at me. It's wow. I'm here to service other people, thus making not only belly dance better, but live music better.
Well, and here's the one of the four I'm going to choose to go with. This whole idea of belly dancing and a belly dance move or whatever. I'm really right now using that as a launch point only. You know, belly dancing in its real form, most purists would argue, is meant to be solo and improvised. Okay? And oftentimes improvised to improvised music, or at least very ornamented and embellished music. Music that you are not expecting. All right? And so that's really unique. Find another dance form that has improvisation to improvised music. Maybe some tap dancing to some crazy jazz, maybe, but I don't know what else. And so this this dance form and the roots of this dance form being improvisational and solo, I feel like are my permission slip to then take that farther. Like when we get out and dance with the Hogshed band playing classic rock or the Jake Castillo trio playing their blues, we aren't dancing to that like they're playing rock or blues. We're interpreting with concepts and ideas and splitting the phrase and emphasizing the start of a phrase and de-emphasizing the end of the phrase and honoring the musical structure and then inverting the structure and all these fun things that we do to hear the music differently and give ourselves new ideas for moving. We do that with those other bands because we started doing that with this improvised Arab music because belly dance is improvised and solo. You know what I mean? And so because of the nature of this belly dancing thing, we've now just extrapolated that to all these other things. And right now, the way the program exists, we use all of that extrapolation to strengthen our listening skills and our movement vocabulary, and then we pull it back to a performance to Arab music at our big annual showcase, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
But that's not to say that everything going out there and all those other little exercises isn't just as cool, you know, performance wise and the you never know. Like I never know when I just this past Sunday again, you know, I had to dance to Hey Jealousy by the Gin Blossoms. And you think you know a song. You think
Hmm.
you know a
Hmm.
song, you
Hmm.
know? And then I get out there and I'm thinking, okay, like I was being very deliberate about wanting to catch the vocals because I knew they started before the one in the phrase. Okay, stay with me, Gylan. I know this is not interesting to you, but that's a really cool thing to notice about the music and to try to do and to try to embody as you're performing. And it's a really useful tool that's liftable from Hey Jealousy to any other piece of music that Hogshed might play. And that's a really useful tool to lift and take with you over into a completely different form of music, like Arab music, you know, focus on the vocal line. And there are times when it starts before the count one of the phrase. That's that's a chance for variety. Do you pick it up before it starts or do you wait for the one? You know, all of that kind of stuff. All of that kind of stuff. And my only point here is that it's all of these games are made possible because of belly dancing being solo and improvised to mostly improvised music,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
So when somebody says you're not doing belly dance steps, right, because I took the belly dance steps from solo improvised belly dancing and I'm trying to grow it, you know, and see what all is out there and I'm exploring. And by the time I bring it back in, you know, for the annual show, yeah, some of that's going to be different. We talked about this in the last podcast too. How long was that damn thing? I keep saying we talked about this in the last podcast, but I'm going to dance with an accent. I have so much jazz and ballet and all that stuff. I am going
Sure.
to dance with an accent. I'll try to.
Which is a regional which is a regional cultural type thing. If you come in from Egypt, your belly dance is going to be different, and if your belly dance is from Lebanon, right?
Right.
And your belly dance is going to be different in San Antonio than somebody like Diana, who is a belly dancer from Puerto Rico.
And I still think about the little boy that I met in the West Bank who, when he found out I was from the United States, asked me if I knew Britney Spears. So everybody is influencing everybody
Sure,
here,
sure,
Yeah.
sure, sure. So you had mentioned something, and I lost the thought, but it was about
That's
the
called a brain fart.
it was about the Arabic. It's oh, the individuality or the improvisation. Do you find that Arabic music compared to westernized, say, country music is more improvisational than country music?
Oh, God.
Okay.
Yes.
So much more like jazz. So I would say, would you say that that Arabic music is much more like jazz?
I don't, I yes.
Yeah,
I
from I
would,
mean,
not being
yeah,
a student of music.
sure,
And I'm only
sure,
going to say
sure.
that because I've heard musicians say that,
Right, right.
But yes.
Yeah, and I don't think I'm crossing into a territory where I'm thinking of Nasser, right?
Mhm.
And the fact that he's played with different bands and different groups and had his music sampled in different ways that wouldn't agree. I mean, he actually went into this very long thing. Talk about longevity when we were at the coffee shop, and he came in and he did like this, unplugged session that was
Mhm.
unbelievable, and he's playing country songs that have and country songs and Latin based songs
Mhm.
that have this very strong Arabic influence in
Mhm.
them in playing the oud.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
So, amazing. Just no, it's wild because it goes to the longevity. You can stay in something like this because you are, again, with or depth, and not just with, but because you've gone so deep and you found these musicians that enhance and revitalize your love for the music, for the culture, and for the
It's
dance.
true, and you just the way you said that just created a visual for me. Like if you get that kind of depth going, then I think that it's probably more interesting to go wide also. Like
Hmm.
you're stable.
Hmm.
Like you know what I mean? Like I think about, oh, let's just say somebody who's had 6 weeks of belly dance and then decides they're going to take 6 weeks of Bollywood and now they're going to do a fusion. What's next for that person?
Sure.
I don't know, but they're going to be spiraling, I think,
Okay.
rather than getting grounded in a form of some kind and then exploring some other genres maybe to weave into it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, I just saw this tree with branches, so I thought I'd communicate that to you.
So you saw a tree. There's no. By the way, we're indoors. There's no windows. So,
In my mind's
and
eye.
in her mind's eye, she saw a tree with branches that goes off into branching off into things. It
But
goes
you
on to
gotta
the
have roots,
longevity. Well,
something stable. Yeah.
right, but it comes back to the longevity of what you've done.
Well, okay. So, and then that means that it's a really good thing to have started when I was 10 years old, just like my students always say. But, um, yeah, yeah.
What
I'm
what do your students always say?
no that I'm so lucky that I started this when I was a child. That's what I was saying at the beginning.
Yeah, you had mentioned that also. I don't know what that luck, where you're lucky because you're good at it now because you've been able to make a living off of it for a while. What's the
I
luck?
don't know
What's
what
behind
lucky
that?
means. I've never really
I
delved into it.
I think that you know what? They think you're living a dream. You're living your dream.
Yeah,
You didn't. I don't say that at 7 you dreamed of being a belly dancer.
actually,
Oh, okay.
when I was 7 years old, I was in first grade, and they had a Halloween costume contest, and I dressed like I Dream of Jeannie, and I was on TV. So there.
Okay. So I remember meeting Karen, and we're getting towards the end of the show. But I remember meeting Karen,
Ah,
and I also remember watching public access TV.
mm, yes.
Who knows when? Late at night,
1991.
91. So late at night sometimes, in the middle of the day sometimes, whenever. And I'm like, ooh, look, belly dancers. And it is so funny. First of all, you have to be old enough to understand what public access is, right? So
Right.
think public access as the beginning of what YouTube is now, right? YouTube is one big public access channel,
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
So it's like everybody coming together and doing what they want to do, how they want to do it.
But
But
just a
public,
local audience, the
yeah.
local talent. Yeah.
So Karen used to go on public access, which was like I don't even know what channel it was.
Oh, who knows?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. So anyway, so she'd go on public access and she would just dance and she'd give her belly dance lessons
I would. Do you know
online.
why? Do you know why? Do you know how I got on that?
No.
Because 1991. Do you know what was going on? Gulf War.
Ah,
And so the Arab American Anti-Discrimination Committee had a chapter here in San Antonio, and I knew them. I had just come back from I guess it's my first trip to Egypt,
okay.
and they wanted to have something on. They had a show every week, and they wanted to just have a little something different on one of their shows that was something positive about the Middle East, not just talking about the war.
Sure.
And so they had me on to just do a little belly dancing thing, and they got a lot of positive feedback about it. And so then the cable people asked if I wanted to have my own show. That's how it happened. So it's Gulf War. It's the reason why. Yeah.
Really? Wow.
hmm
And this is way before Tommy or anything too, right?
Right. Yeah. I hadn't even met Tommy yet.
Yeah.
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 But I did meet him at an Arab American Anti-Discrimination
You
Committee
did.
banquet.
You
Yes.
did. Are we ever going to interview Tommy?
No.
No.
Short answer.
Okay. And I know why, but
It'll turn to Texas history.
I know
You'll be
that's
able
what
to
I'm
control
saying.
it.
Like, this is the Karen Barbie baby boomer belly dancer show, not the old Texas,
Yeah.
you
It'll
know,
be Texas history.
Texas history show.
No.
Okay, so second podcast down,
Mhm.
right? And we're gonna get away from this second podcast now. We're gonna actually have really cool intro music and outro music,
Are
and
we? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
somebody saying, "Hey, this is the baby boomer belly dancers show," and then some really cool Arabic music and stuff like that.
And any of my students out there that hear this, you guys are all going to have to be on this with me, so you can
Yeah,
banter.
so we're gonna have interviews. We're gonna have distance interviews. We're gonna have people coming into the studio. Tables 8 feet big, guys. Don't worry about it. For the the people, wear your
Social
mask. Wear your
distance,
mask.
yeah.
Yeah, for the social distancing crowd. Um, but yeah, we're gonna do some really cool things. And I don't know what do you see the future of this podcast looking like, or your podcast looking like?
God.
Are you just like in the moment enjoying it right now?
Yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah.
have no idea where this is going to go. But I
Yeah.
didn't have any idea where Project Band was going to go either.
I know. And this is not quite Project Band, but I think this is up there. I know we're going to be talking to, where I'm excited about is talking to the doctors around neurology and movement
Oh,
and
Lord. Yeah, it's
dancing.
down the road a little
And
bit.
yeah, but I think that's a
But
huge
I mean, we've got
segment.
to, because I am so tired of studying improvisation through the lens of theatrical performance, comedy, music, and rapping.
Hmm.
Any studies on improv,
hmm
neuro studies on
Mhm.
improv have only been those groups.
Really?
Very few with dancers. Tiny, tiny bits, and nothing in the United States hardly. Mhm.
See, you're on a whole nother level that just blew my mind. The fact that you even know that is beautiful.
Oh, no, thanks.
That's a-
Yeah,
yeah.
I have lots of books on improvisation.
Which is why I believe Karen is winning. And the whole longevity piece is you'll continue to win and it'll be a stalwart in the community of belly dance because damn, like look at what you're doing. It's a respect too. I mean, we haven't even talked about the possibility of putting the band together and going to a belly dance event and then having the Project Band girls dance there, right? And I don't know if that's necessarily what we want, but we haven't talked about like how much bigger Project Band can actually get, as you're in the third chapter of Karen Barbie,
Mhm.
So
Who knows?
who knows? All right, well, signing off for
Karen Barbie Atkinson, baby boomer belly dancer.
say that 5 times real quick. And we'll be back next week. A little bit less of me, a little bit more of Karen.
Maybe a guest.
Maybe a guest.
Yeah.
Who do you have any ideas of
Yeah, I'm not gonna say.
for a guest? You're not gonna say.
Yeah.
Okay. And we should do like a guess that dancer story too. I think that would be getting kind of cool.
Mhm.
Tell a story around somebody and say, guess who that dancer was in the
Mm.
crew.
Mm.
Maybe because you're virtual, so people watch the dancers and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Gotcha.
All right.
Logged it.
Well, this is Guyland Jackson, Karen Barbie Atkinson, and we will and tune in next week.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.